Welcome to the Better Than Cash Alliance webinar on responsible digital payments during COVID-19. I'm Ruth Goodwin-Groen, the Managing Director of the Better Than Cash Alliance. And for those who don't know yet who we are, we're a partnership of government, companies and international organizations that are all committed to moving away from cash to some form of responsible digital payment to accelerate progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. This is the second in our series of webinars on learning from members about responding to COVID-19. We've had over 500 registrations and participants from every region of the world. And I'd like to give an especially warm welcome to members of the Better Than Cash Alliance, governments, companies, and international organizations. We're part of a global community, and for those who are observing Ramadan, Ramadan Kareem. This webinar is being recorded, so you can always come back and listen to it because it's going to be very rich substance over the next hour. You can also ask questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And my colleague Isvari will be collating all the questions received for final discussion. Before I introduce our wonderful speakers for the day, let me just go over the goals and our agenda for today. Our goal is for our Alliance members, Jordan, Peru, and Ghana, to share their experiences of responsibly digitizing during COVID-19. It's a virtual Alliance knowledge exchange between peers, as we all are working towards the goal of every person being able to make and receive digital payments, whether old or young, male or female, urban or rural, everyone needs this service. So in our peer exchanges, we're clear that we're not perfect. We're simply sharing our experiences to engage in discussion and help each other improve. And our members, Jordan, Peru, and Ghana, are sharing today their very different experiences with that mindset as we go forward. So we're going to tackle it by, each of them is going to give a very quick overview of their COVID situation and the digital financial ecosystem. I'm going to give a very quick reminder of the Better Than Cash Alliance Responsible Digital Payment Guidelines. And then each of them is going to give a 10-minute mini case study on their own country's payment responses. And each one of them is very inspiring. So we've got a lot to look forward to. Let me welcome our fantastic speakers. First up, Amr Al-Musa is the head of Financial Inclusion Division at the Central Bank of Jordan, and he leads the government's efforts to drive financial inclusion. Welcome, Amr. And also a warm welcome to Cesar Calme Delgado, who is the Director of Policies and Strategies at the Ministry of Development and Social Inclusion in Peru. MEDIS is one of the key ministries in Peru, tasked with rolling out 2 new emergency transfers specific to this crisis. And last but by no means least, Archie Hess is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems. Welcome to each of you. We are privileged to have you with us. So we're going to go straight to the snapshots, and Amr.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you for Better Than Cash Alliance for this opportunity, and looking forward to sharing Jordan's experience and lessons today. Like any other countries around the globe impacted or affected by COVID-19 scenario, a full lockdown was imposed on 18th of March and followed by a curfew announced up until now on 21st of March. We are a small country, relatively of population of 10.5 million. With very unique challenges, actually having third of population are migrants and refugees. And as direct COVID-19 measure, the government had to expand the social benefit umbrella to cover additional 200,000 households that will receive monthly subsidies over a period of almost from 3 to 6 months. A snapshot of digital financial ecosystem in Jordan. We believe that digital financial services are key channels to reach for financial inclusion. And we have key things that we've done on a regulatory and infrastructure perspective. Again, the financial inclusion rate is at 42% in terms of account ownership. We have 24 operating commercial banks in the country. And since 2019, In April specifically, CBJ had announced and mandated all operating banks in the country to provide the basic bank account product, which entitles all Jordanians 18 years old and above with no other bank account to open on a simplified KYC basis using ID, national ID, and it has no fees and no minimum balance fees. And from another regulatory perspective, we had focused on ensuring an open playing field among a variety of market players. So we have 7 payment service providers connected to the Jordan mobile switch, mobile for mobile payments and money transfers. And they are fully licensed and overseen by the Central Bank of Jordan, 3 of which are MNO linked, which increases and expands the agent network. Currently, we have 1,400 agents, including large money exchange houses and MNO airtime distributors. It's worth mentioning here that the Jomo Pay switch is interoperable and seamless for consumer experience. And another important measure was to ensure the central bank had communicated with all financial institutions to ensure business continuity with no interruption for electronic fund transfers and ensuring the readiness of all IT infrastructure. This includes point of sale services at merchants, ATM machines, and ensuring sufficient liquidity at ATM machines for easiness and for access of funds by consumers. And again, this is additional to remittances all along during the crisis.
Thanks so much for that snapshot, Amr. Over to you, Cesar.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you to Better Than Cash Alliance for this opportunity to share our experience and to know from other experience. And thank you to all the attendants that are listening to us, and maybe they are going to make interesting questions. Well, here in Peru, like in many other parts of the world, we are under lockdown since around mid-March until May 24. This measure was really important for us to prevent a collapse of our health system. However, we recognize the impact of this kind of intervention on the economies of many Peruvians who are informally or self-employed or relied on daily wage to sustain their families and life. So related to this, the government adopted a huge fiscal package equivalent to the 12%, approximately 12% of the GDP to provide short-term liquidity answers to vulnerable population affected during this lockdown and to protect employment. Indeed, this is really a first in the history of our country. I think we are trying to do our best on this issue. It's important to notice that a big part of this fiscal support is by way of social protection schemes, has been expanded also. With this package, mainly based on cash transfers, we are trying to reach a total of 6.8 million of households will be benefit. The cash transfer is approximately $220. The idea is to alleviate the difficulties during this lockdown. Just to remind, Peru has around 30 million people. It's almost 8 million households. So when we focus on these 6.8 households, these are groups that are extremely poor, or they are very close to the line of poor. They are like a vulnerable population. Just want to notice that these cash transfers are going by phases. Phase 1 and 2 are focused on urban areas. Those are the most dangerous area with high probability of contagion. And then we go to another phase, focus on rural areas. And then we are planning to the future, and we are looking to have not have phases for maybe next month we need to make another cash transfers. So we are working on universal cash transfers, for all people that are not working over public payroll or public or private payroll. Just to look a snapshot for the digital financial ecosystem in Peru. Over the last years, Peru has committed to approve enabling regulations to foster interoperable payment solutions. These include e-money, basic account regulations, an interoperable platform of e-money. It is known here like BIM, B-I-M. We also have QR codes standards at the American level. And there are also a public gateway to collect government payments. We have also focused on ensuring digital financial payment and service to reach all Peruvians, and this is very related to our mobile coverage. It has increased to 80% of all the country. And there is also national plans to develop basic infrastructure to connect the country. This whole institutional framework encourages private sector to create innovative payment solutions and has provided the government with better ways to provide better service. Anyway, we need to, during these weeks, we are focusing on make a strong policy of financial education because for the next cash transfers, we need to help people not to go to the traditional bank office, and we are trying to make them to increase the use of these digital financial systems.
Perfect, thank you. Archie, over to you.
Ruth, I'm going to step in for Archie because it seems like there is some technical difficulty. So I'll just do the 2 slides for Ghana. This is Eastbury. Oh, okay, Archie is back on. So over to you, Archie.
Yes, sorry about this. It's one of those things, one of those days for us. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Ruth, and thank you very much to President Cash Alliance. I think you have a slide there. We've been in the partial lockdown. I think the situation in Ghana in the last 3 weeks has been worse than it has been since the past 4 or 5 weeks since we started engaging, have this unfortunate situation. Ghana, relatively urban population, very high informal. The coronavirus had I wouldn't say has had significant impact, but we have been very aggressive in actually chasing the virus more than most people have done. We also have a situation, a lot of the inhabitants in Ghana is being currently supported by government as it is already. We have quite a significant number of people receiving government funds as well as World Bank funds, as the case is already. Am I still on or?
Yes, do tell us about the digital financial ecosystem, Archie.
Okay. In terms of the digital financial ecosystem, we do have accounts above 15 years of age, around 58%. Females contribute to around 54%. We have roughly 24 banks in Ghana. And the PSPs, as a payment service providers, there are 5 that have been licensed, but we do have a significant number, about 14 or so in the pipeline. Mobile access is very good. We have it's roughly around 67%. We have the agent and also e-money guidelines that has actually given room for mobile money to perform better in Ghana than any other country. This guideline was put into operation 2013. Before that, mobile money wasn't the in thing. Within the shortest possible time, as a result of the guideline, it actually gave birth to all the resources, and we become one of the biggest in the market at the moment. Our systems are also fairly interoperable. That's the systems, the interoperability between the banks and the mobile money service providers as well. As a result, we are moving away from point of sale device and trying to deploy low cost channels. talking specifically about the QR code, as well as looking at the proxy pay to ease payments within our ecosystem. So that's basically what our financial services comprises of. If we come specifically to the COVID, what government has been doing, which is the next slide, for the sake of benefit, because we don't have enough time, I think we've gone backwards instead of forwards. The slide I'm looking.
We'll come back to you, Archie. I'm just going to give a quick update on the responsible digital guidelines, and then your session will come afterwards. Thank you so much for those different snapshots of where we are in response to COVID and the digital payments ecosystem. And the reason we're focusing on the responsible digital payments guidelines today in response to COVID is because members have said it's all very well to digitize and to comply with consumer protection regulations, but is there more that we can do to ensure digital payments promote sustainable development and take care of clients? And so these guidelines were developed after 2 years of consultations with all of our members, and they still hold good through the test of time. And our 3 members, Jordan, Ghana, and Peru today, have started with the number 1, to treat clients fairly as the basic overarching principle. And they are already in guideline 2 and 7, keeping client funds safe and protecting client data according to their own regulatory frameworks. So today we're going to be focusing on guideline 3, 4, 5, and 8, because those are the ones about tailoring for clients, in this case, recipients of payments in the COVID response. Number 3 is you'll see that they all have great transparency about explaining what they're doing, how they've designed for their client or recipient needs and capability, how interoperability supports those clients or recipients, and how they have providing different recourse, such as helplines and things. So it's a great opportunity to hear how they're implementing these guidelines. So without further ado, let me hand over to Amr, who will tell us about what they've been doing in Jordan. Amr.
Thank you, Ruth. And as you said, there's always more to do. Now to tackle principle 3 first, ensure the transparency. Again, and due to the nature of the crisis and the lockdown, there is a direct need to address the economic difficulties of the 200,000 households were directly impacted by the crisis, which are daily wage workers mainly, and which were identified through 2 means. First, the government announced and launched a platform for them to apply, plus they were compared to the National Unified Registry as well. So then, once they were allocated, eligibility, its transparency of eligibility was key, and it was publicly announced as well. The eligible households were communicated via SMS text messages informing them of eligibility and the amount of maximum of $192 USD per household, depending on family members and geographic location as well. So afterwards, after being informed, it was fully announced that the e-wallet digital wallets will only be used for distribution of these funds. So they received instructions of e-wallet opening and a quick idea or like a snapshot of e-wallets and how to operate them. Now, it was gladly we've been working with the National Aid Fund for almost a year, digitizing the social benefits payments as well through wallets and basic bank accounts. However, it was delegated to National Aid Fund as the biggest G2P payments program. So 80% of eligible households had to open new wallets. The other 20% were actually communicated and reached and were informed of their active wallets and were asked either to activate them or to open a new wallet. Again, due to the crisis, we ensured actually social distancing and our vulnerable groups to be safe and healthy. So we had to amend our regulations and enabled eKYC regulations for digital remote opening. So all of beneficiaries were able to open their wallets remotely, and we contacted all payment service providers in order to develop needed requirements as soon as possible, and that was actually done within 24 hours. However, afterwards, we had waived the wallet transactions were increased up to 5,000 Jordanian dinars per wallet. On another hand, we had other different refugees, and understanding their needs and the nature of circumstances of the crisis. And we know that other UN agencies and NGOs will have to deliver different emergency transfer as well. We enabled for all refugees to use their UNHCR card as a formal ID to onboard digitally remote onboarding and open wallets actually using UNHCR cards. So now they can make remittances directly from their mobile phones and do P2P transactions as well. Now, stemming from there, additional efforts were done actually with collaboration with the government. Prior to the crisis, we already published the QR guidelines. However, the crisis was a catalyst actually to accelerate the process with payment service providers. So they were requested immediately to enable them. And we've worked with the Ministry of Digital Economy as well in order to push forward with the platform for different merchants to have on a business side to enable QR payments. So this was in order to reduce cash needs. And we at Central Bank of Jordan had announced a challenge fund, which provides incentives for merchants and users and payment service providers in order to use digital wallets through QR payments at pharmacies, grocery, and gas stations. Again, transparency is key. So the beneficiaries were sent. Actually, each beneficiary had received a list of available and licensed PSPs in the industry. As you can see, these are the 7 payment service providers. So each beneficiary had to choose one and inform National Aid Fund through an interactive SMS process of their choice. So once they had chosen one PSP, they received the link for digital onboarding of this particular PSP, along with a hotline number for this PSP as well. And this process was gradual in order not to bulk the whole system. So it took almost 11 days. So we've seen almost 360,000 new wallets in 49 days. And according to new numbers, we stand currently at 470,000 wallets. 70% of them are active. And this big jump in numbers was due to G2P and different other private sector stores that were communicated for them in order to deliver salaries is to use wallets as well. Now, this was simultaneously associated with a big awareness campaign. We had developed animated videos and social tools to build the customer trust and drive adoption of mobile wallets. So we had actually leveraged and used all our formal channels as Central Bank, Prime Ministry, Government, Ministry of Digital Economy, and our operator of the system, our partner, JOPAC as well. So each day we announced, or actually we published a specific video tackling a specific topic, beginning from opening wallets to operating a wallet, agents, closing a wallet, and receiving and actually cash withdrawal, cash in and cash out. In addition, our partner, again, JOPAC, the operator of the system, thankfully were very supportive during this crisis. They had developed a zero risk demonstration, a gamified actually application that is very almost like a live wallet with full functionality in order to build the customer confidence. And for the product client resources, 30% of beneficiaries actually face difficulties. And this came at no surprise to us. Again, previously, we've been working with National Aid Fund, and we had supported in providing info sessions for beneficiaries before receiving their payments. But in this case, it was due to the crisis, and it was an immediate action. So 30% had faced difficulties. So in order to tackle this, we had worked, actually, we provided 3 options for customer helplines. First one was, and it was communicated through our channels again, and the PSP's channels too, and which actually they were provided once the consumer had chosen the PSP. We communicated the PSP of number of their beneficiaries in order to contact them as well. So providers had provided a hotline, and it was published on JOPAC, the operator of the system, their numbers, their hotline numbers. The second line was JOPAC as the operator. They were very supportive as well, and they had received working with the 30% as well. And the last but not least option was Central Bank of Jordan, where we had to actually support incoming inquiries and walk-ins as well. And it's worth mentioning that on both, actually on the helplines, the service was available 24/7. Again, making cash out was really critically necessary during the crisis and very convenient for our target groups. So we made our cash out channel businesses, we clarified the operating hours for different, giving the curfew for different agents and different point of service. Again, as I said, we currently have 1,400 allocated in all governorates in the country, and retailers as well. However, we had collaborated with 2 banks with with really good, effective ATM machines allocation in the country as well, where we enabled the cardless option of withdrawing money. It's worth mentioning again that the Jomo Pay switch connects both 5 banks on an optional basis, banks that offer the service, and PSPs providers. So all banks using ATM card, you can withdraw, e-wallet holders can withdraw their funds. However, 2 of them, as I said, provided this at no fees cardlessly. And again, we have mobile ATMs by specific banks where they were roaming around the kingdom and governorates as well. So last thing, we have the unified agent interface, which provides information on fees and agents points and actually match with ID allocation. Plus people can check the status of their wallets as well using this URL. However, and few other post offices were actually providing the service as well. So this is the ecosystem. Jomo Pay is the only real-time micropayment system, particularly operating during the crisis. So it's well integrated with different other schemas. First one is the ATM switch, JoeNet, again with banks. So people who don't have bank accounts and carry e-wallets, digital wallets, can withdraw using their companionship cards using any ATM machine in the kingdom. And the switch as well is integrated with the electronic bill presentment and payment system. So in order to create more usage through the wallet. So this opened the horizon for Jomo Pay users to use using different channels, either mobile payment and online and banking channels as well. And this had really helped us during the crisis to ease transfer of money, particularly P2P and different other transfers. Again, as I mentioned previously, QR payments were implemented, and we had actually, as central bank and our partner JOPAC, we announced the guidelines imposed for QR using the MVCO standards for implementation for this technology to ensure best practices, which again, we saw opportunity during the crisis to accelerate the adoption. The connection with the e-Fawatircom, which is the electronic bill presentment and payment system, had created more use cases for people in order to be more appealing for their use. I hope I covered everything during this session, and it's really, and thank you again for this opportunity. However, I think that we had seized an opportunity during this crisis, which is a bright side, in order to accelerate our work in providing services at a very affordable means and very responsibly, and leverage on this even after the crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amr, and you have clearly worked very hard to be responsible in the way that you've been delivering in the COVID-19 crisis, as well as building for the future and planning for the recovery. So really inspirational. Thank you. So now we'll go straight to Cesar, who will give us the mini case study from Peru. Cesar.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Well, in Peru, communication of the schemes came from the very top of government. Our president periodically addresses the nation through television about policy measures adopted by his government. The same was done for the cash transfers related to the COVID scenario. The first scheme to be announced was named I Stay at Home. In Spanish is Yo Me Quedo en Casa. Other cash transfers schemes implemented by other ministries, for example, the Labor Ministry, are also announced the same way. Additionally, the means of payment and other details are further elaborated by the Minister of the Ministry of Development and Social Inclusion, Mrs. Ariela Luna. Minister Luna has been interviewed to explain how to access to the subsidies platform, and I stay at home. The platform worked well and have recent information based on the latest elections. Also, social media accounts from the Ministry of Development and Social Inclusion have been used to inform beneficiaries about the details of eligibility, how to access the digital platform, to verify if anyone has been considered as a beneficiary, and also to reply queries from citizens. The ministry, the Twitter account of the minister and the usage of infographics along with the message have played an important role. Also, we work this very closely with the National Bank. It has deployed a big campaign to communicate also about the different payments. And also we are working with 4 or 5 private banks that are collaborating with the government. As I mentioned, one of the first schemes was the Yo Me Quedo en Casa cash transfer. Eligible beneficiaries of this one received 2 payments, each one of around approximately $110. Given that the lockdown most significantly impacted urban areas such as Lima, that's the capital here in Peru, the Ministry of Development and Social Inclusion had to create from scratch in 2 days a database able to identify around 3 million people, 3 million households that could be eligible. This target population was established through the National Household Targeting System and other administrative databases, such as those from the Ministry of Health and from the Ministry of Labor also. We were able to launch this quickly as we have a robust ID infrastructure in Peru. We are very proud of this also. We began a national identification campaign around 1995. We have achieved right now near universal ID coverage. Leveraging the national ID, we launch an online platform. Citizens can access this platform with their ID card number and verify if they are eligible for these cash transfers. The Ministry of Development and Social Inclusion also decide to make the payments direct to bank accounts, and through this platform, eligible beneficiaries also receive information about the place and date of payment. I will come back to this decision on bank channel and the challenge we face later in next. Okay. Our people, for our people, the most important question that they are struggling is, am I eligible? So we use all possible media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to help people to answer this question. Having clarity on this critical information has a huge impact on people's peace of mind. We have focused on efforts on this. In addition, Minister Mrs. Ariel Luna herself, she's answering live questions and clarify queries from the public. And I also want to mention that we have the information on Spanish, that is the national official language, and also in Quechua. Quechua is a native national language, and we have information on both languages. Other important decision that we made is the decision to make the transfer to women. In this case, the oldest women in the household under 60 was an important decision. We believe this assignment is critical to ensuring that the purpose of the transfers, that is to ensure basic family welfare needs, will indeed be met. Women between 18 and 60 can be assigned as a recipient of the cash transfer for the household. If there is no one that fits this criteria, the scheme has flexibility, so a male member can also be appointed instead. No? For the verification, we use the ID number. You will recall that we took a decision to make this payment digitally and direct to bank account. This was important as given the overall value of the schemes. This was crucial to ensuring transparency and accountability of funds. However, we still have a challenge of financial inclusion in Peru. Approximately only 40% of Peruvians have a bank account. This was an issue during these weeks to make these schemes available to all people. But for the first payment that we made, we were able to pay around 700,000 beneficiaries direct to bank accounts held in the largest state bank. This is the national bank. These beneficiaries were able to cash out from an ATM or a national bank agent. Also, as I mentioned, 4 private banks help with facilitate payment by cash out for Unbank at branches in the city of Lima, Callao, and in other areas of our country, especially in other urban areas, the small urban areas out of the main city. A couple of principal 4 guidelines were considered to ensure a suitable design, also considering specific constraint of the COVID, where we needed to avoid overcrowding. So the beneficiaries were assigned to specific branches based on their localization, excuse me, based on the address on their IDs. Fees for ATM were removed to encourage use of that channel and lessen crowding at branches. The state bank, the national bank, also provided their agents loans to ensure sufficient liquidity so that beneficiaries could always cash out when required from those channels. In the first phase rollout, beneficiaries without an account can receive the cash out from the appointed branch by showing their ID just for verification. For the second payment, we have built on the lessons from the first one. So we wanted to broaden the channel for cash out of funds for those with no accounts to avoid overcrowding at banks. And this began to work from May 1. For people with no account at National Bank, they will have the option to receive one-time passwords from the application of bank of the National Bank called Banco Celular to withdraw the transfer from the bank's network ATMs and agents. The Banco Celular application can also be accessed by dollars and by the local currency. And it's an option for Peruvians who have a feature phone. In addition to National Bank channels, Minister Luna announced that payments could also be made directly to other private bank applications. Electronic payment from these applications is accepted. Families decided which kind of application they can use. Around 160,000 families, including merchant points in Peru, helps to avoid the need for cash out. Approximately 70,000 families have chosen to access this other channel. With this channel, cash out is also possible through withdrawal from any ATM at no cost or need for a card. You just need to use a one-time password generated by this private application that you decide to use as a household. Also, we created a free hotline 101 for beneficiaries to communicate issues to cash out the subsidy with clear information about the operating hours of the hotline. Additionally, beneficiaries could also email any grievances to a dedicated email address that we are managing here at the Ministry of Development and Social Inclusion.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to share your experience of this largest relief package in America. So I'm just going to hand straight over to, after that inspirational talk, Archie, we're going to hear how Ghana has taken a different and equally as interesting approach. Over to you. Archie, we're going to hear how Ghana has taken a different and equally interesting approach. Over to you.
Thank you very much. You can hear. Thank you very much.
Archie, we're having some difficulty hearing you. Can you just try one more time? So, Isvari, how about, he seems to have dropped. So you've been working with him, so why don't you share what he was going to say?
Sure, Ruth. So starting off with, how Ghana tried to ensure product transparency. There were 4 key measures that Ghana had actually implemented in the face of COVID-19 that encouraged the use of digital payments during this time. First, it was waiver of digital transaction fees. Second, it is to open e-wallets with a mobile wallet remotely.
Thank you. Hello.
Ah, great. Archie's back. We're just on number 2, opening e-wallets with mobile number remotely.
Oh, okay. I was actually listening. In terms of sorry about that, the key initiatives that we took. Yes, one of the key was the government took advantage of the situation and realized that the use of digitized payments was going to help reduce the rate at which the disease was spread. So the central bank asked all the financial institutions to come together and waive all digitized payments in an effort to support, to make it free. And so doing, individuals and corporates were more likely to convert their systems and also adapt their behavior so that digitized payments becomes the order of the day. And you see towards the end of the presentations the effects that we've had in this short period. The other initiative as well was the opening of accounts. As I indicated earlier on, mobile money payment has become the order of the day because of the lower KYC that it comes with. But during the COVID period, as soon as once you have a mobile number, you can use that to also open a mobile wallet account. So the number of mobile money users also grew as a result of that. We also lowered the limits in terms of if, for example, your KYC allows you to transact up to 5,000 cedis a month, we increased it to maybe 10,000. So your daily allowances were increased. The cumulative amount of money that can be held on a wallet at any given time was also increased to ensure that individuals were able to perform all their various transactions that they would like to do. The National Switch GIPS was also asked to waive their digitized payments fees as well in support of the industry. And you can see at the bottom the mobile money interoperability platform. We started our adverts in 5 different languages to inform and educate the populace that you can now transact across the various platforms. So these are, and then finally, there was one other thing too that we did that wasn't communicated, that's on the slide. Most of if your card that you transact with, your bank card expires during that period, all cards that expires during that period were also increased. Leap. Now, we do have a platform that we use for the underbanked in Ghana called eSwitch, and it's used a lot for all our various social interventions. That platform in particular is a biometric switch, retail and banking application. It works online and offline. It's very fully interoperable. What do I mean by that? It means that if I obtain my eSwitch card, my biometric card from Bank A, I could transact on any of the biometric ATMs in the country, as well as the biometric point of sales in the country. In addition to that, we also have full interoperability at the bank branch end as well. So it means that if government sends funds to you, a beneficiary, and you happen to be in an area where you are locked down, you could walk into any bank branch at all within your vicinity, and you are able to have access to your funds. Now, that particular eSwitch platform was what the government of Ghana used as their main vehicle in disbursing funds to the vulnerable during this COVID period, and continue to do so. In addition, cash outs via various banks were also conducted throughout the whole country. So maybe you could have a selected number of banks that could take a particular sector of the section of the country, and they will be offering cash out not only to their customers, but to all customers who actually do have an eSwitch account. So in a nutshell, that was one of the key flagship platforms that we use in disbursing funds to the poor within the country, or those who were heavily affected. In terms of the platform that exists in the country, at the top, you have the eSwitch platform. It's a biometric switch, which I explained earlier on. Every bank subscribes to it. So if you are with Barclays or ABSA or EcoBank or any of the banks, you can go to any of them and obtain your eSwitch card from there. Once you have it, the KYC is lower, but you do have a full-fledged bank account, and it's fully interoperable. On the right-hand side, you have the banks. If you have a bank account as well, all the bank accounts in Ghana are also linked together. So there's full interoperability between bank accounts in Ghana. And on the left-hand side, the mobile wallets in the country are also fully interoperable. And lastly, there's interoperability between all eSwitch platform and bank account holders, and all bank account holders and mobile money wallet holders, and also mobile money wallet holders and eSwitch wallet holders. So there's full interoperability within the country, whether you are banked because you satisfy the KYC, or whether you are under or unbanked and you are using any of the eSwitch platforms or mobile wallet platforms, you can all transact seamlessly. So the financial, the unbanked and the banked can all transact within the country. And that particular platform, we have christened the financial inclusion triangle in the country. And all banks, all fintechs, all corporates, any other entity that exists in the country tries to link to the national switch, either through an aggregator or directly to the national switch, depending on whether you satisfy the criteria, and you are able to transact with just about anybody else who exists in the country. So the platform really came in very handy during the COVID period, as we are going through, or has come in very handy for us. One of the things that we wanted to implement to complement electronic transactions was proxy pay and QR code. Before the shutdown, we were very close to testing, but we felt that these two channels or services were going to help during this period. So government with Bank of Ghana launched the product during the COVID period on the 25th of March. And as we speak, a number of payment service providers are actually rolling the QR codes so that individuals with smartphones are able to shop using their smartphones digitally, as opposed to using cash. And underneath, it's a shame you can't see underneath. Underneath, you have a terminal ID, and the terminal ID can also be used by USSD users. That's if you don't have a smartphone and you have a feature phone, you are able to type in the *456 asterisk, depending on which bank or service provider you are. Then you go through the menu, payments, purchase or payments. You type in the terminal ID. You type the amount, and the funds will be lodged into the beneficiary of the merchant. We've also, like I said, fast-tracked the use of the proxy pay. Proxy pay allows individual bank holders to link their telephone numbers to their bank account, and also corporates to link the name of their corporates to their bank account. So instead of you remembering my bank account number, all you have to do now is to use my telephone number to send payments to me. As a country, we are used to sending payments to each other by virtue of mobile money using telephone numbers. So extending it to bank accounts as well is really going to serve us during this period. A bit of statistics there. You can see the sudden jump in the use of transactions. Just over a period of 5 weeks or so, we were able to move from just under around 1.8 million to almost 2.3 million transactions within this short period. And as we speak, on daily basis, we are actually quadrupling by virtue of the awareness and creation and the adverts that we've put in place. The rate at which the volume of transactions are growing is really, really encouraging. And we are very happy with the fact that the measures that we have put in place is actually supporting the unfortunate situation that we have.
Archie, thank you so much for that very rich presentation. And we're just losing you. So the time was fantastic. I'm so glad it worked out. So we're just coming to the end. We've slowly running out of time, but I did want to get to a few questions before we did close up. But just to key takeaways of that I've heard from our three expert panelists of you don't have to be perfect to get started. You can keep improving as you go to move responsibly, because being able to care for people first is fantastic, and then to keep improving is also amazing what we've seen our members doing, but also to keep that approach of focusing on the recipients, being able to serve their needs, particularly as many of them are new to the digital payments ecosystem. And those who've had great infrastructure beforehand are able to use it, and we heard from all of our speakers today. So therefore, there's no better time to start preparing to build for recovery than to build your infrastructure for an inclusive digital payments ecosystem. So we've got questions coming in from all over the place, and it's really, where do we start? I'm just going to give you each one very quick question. If I could ask you to please answer very quickly. Cesar, there's a question for you from Senegal. What trade-offs did you have to make since you moved so quickly?
Wow, hard, difficult, but I think that for any public policy that you need to work fast in this scenario, in this epidemic scenario, we need that kind of moving. You need to work with the approval of the principal authorities of the country. In a normal scenario, if you ask for the collaboration of a database for another ministry, for example, maybe it will take around 2 or 3 weeks to receive it. In this case, because this is a measure dictated by the principal national authorities, we have the databases in less than 1 day. So I think that was the main point that make the difference, so we can move so quickly on this scenario.
Yes, there's nothing having your head of state saying what's happening. So that's fantastic. Archie, there's a question for you from Bangladesh. In fact, several people are asking questions about reaching rural people. What are some innovative digital payment solutions to reach rural beneficiaries?
In terms of the rural, like I said earlier on, we used our eSwitch platform. That's the platform that we have been using for what we call the last mile. And we've chosen that platform in particular because it rides on biometric. So in order for you to have access to your funds, you use your biometric, that's your fingerprints, to have access to your funds. That is what you also use in registering for your eSwitch card. The card is also, the funds is also stored on the card, which means it works offline and therefore not reliant on telecommunications or electricity all the time. Once you've charged, the point of sale device is charged, you are able to use it. And also, if a bank is serving it within the community, any eSwitch card holder, irrespective of the bank that you obtain your card with, you are able to actually be served by that bank. And it has really served us very well, to the extent that you'd be amazed that a significant number of our rurals do not even have feature phones to use mobile money wallet. So those individuals, the eSwitch biometric smart card system has really served them very well.
Super, thank you. That's a great example. So Amar, we have a question from Indonesia. What are your priorities now in digitizing payments that will be sustainable for the recovery? And I think there's a related question on what kind of nationwide sensitization are you doing now to increase usage of digital financial services?
Great, thank you, Rath. Well, first priorities, as again mentioned in the presentation, 30% of people face difficulties. So mainly to launch actually nationwide awareness campaign of wallets and all what it has to do with wallets, from opening, operating, transaction, using, and everything, even complaint handling. So raising awareness in this sense. Plus actually focus more on use cases. Again, we're working now with the government to digitize all P2G payments, and digital wallets are a big channel that will be used as well. This will create adoption. And I'm giving another example, maybe public transportation and other payments will be included as well. So for the other nationwide, again, such programs at the nationwide level as P2G and awareness campaigns will be really supportive in adoption of digital services in general.
Super. There are lots more questions, but we do need to end here. What we're going to do with all those questions is put them together, and some of them are on liquidity, and we have our next webinar in a couple of weeks that will be addressing that again with members of the Alliance for the different ways that they have addressed that liquidity management problem in COVID-19 response. It has been an incredible pleasure having you, Amar, Cesar, and Archie over the past hour. The richness of what you've shared with us will last us for a long time, of all the different ways that you have approached your responsible practices in this COVID-19 era. All of us have been inspired by your different examples, and we want to really thank you for your time this afternoon when you're in the middle of delivering payments to people who need it most. And so we very much appreciate that. And for those of you who are members of the Alliance, we are in the process of updating our guidelines, and so would be very happy to hear from you if you have ideas for how we can do better. So thank you very much once again, and everyone, please stay well. Take care. Bye now.